Hi everyone, my name is Megan. I'm one half of Megan and Matt. We are converting a van so that we can travel the world together and live our best life. So if you're new here, please subscribe if you like this content and like this video if you enjoy it. Today I'm going to be talking about how I went from making $18,000 a year to making over six figures a year. And we're not going to talk about MLMs, we're not going to talk about passive income, side gigs, none of that. This is all about money that I've earned working for an employer. So if you're interested in this topic, stay tuned. So I graduated from Central Connecticut State University with a bachelor's degree in marketing, and so I was like, I'm gonna get into marketing, even though all of my professors, well, some of my professors were like, Megan, you have a great personality, it's such a great asset of yours, go ahead and go into sales, you'll make a lot of money. I was like, I'm not gonna get into sales, that's like sleazy and so annoying, commissions, all of that. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get into marketing. I want to be in Mad Men. I want to work on huge campaigns, marketing campaigns. Well, that did not happen. My first job out of college was this little company called, and it was a SaaS company, and what they wanted was someone to come in and kind of work on their social medias and work on SEO for their website. So basically SEO is search engine optimization, and I didn't know anything, and my pay reflected that. So they paid me the minimum wage at the time in New York City, which was $8.75 per hour, and I worked 40 hours a week, and this is how I really got into major budgeting, is because half of my income for the month was going towards my rent. Everything else was food. And I was in student loan debt. I was probably racking up credit cards. I can't remember, but it was not a lot of money at all. So $18,200 a year is what it equals out to. But thankfully, I only stayed in this position for 3 months. And so after the 3 months, sales weren't going. I wasn't in charge of sales. Sales weren't going. It was really just the founder, me, and a salesperson. Well, they let the salesperson go. And so the founder, he was like, okay, I guess we can't afford to pay the salesperson because they didn't bring in any sales. So Megan, you are such a hard worker, and you really don't need a lot of direction. You kind of go and learn what you need to learn, and we want to see more of that. So we're going to keep you on and pay you more. They raised my salary to a whopping $30,000 a year. I know it's not a lot, and I'm not saying everyone should take their first job at $30,000 a year, but it's what I did. There were valuable things that I learned from working for that company. I was working in a WeWork space, which was a co-working space with a lot of startups. And these are all pretty much tech startups. So this is where I learned all about the cloud, technology, etc. And I was also making blogs about technology. Imagine writing blogs about things that you don't know. That's literally what I did. But in turn, I learned all of those terms. I learned all of what I needed to know to probably sell the product, although I didn't end up selling the product. So I continued with this job, and I took that time to network with other tech startups, and I kind of learned what they were doing, what their products were, and how they were running their business. And I was like, oh, startup technology, that is really cool and also really lucrative. If they sell for billions or millions, whatever, if they sell for a lot of money and you get equity in that startup because you've been working there since the beginning, that's a lot of money for you to pocket when they actually sell. So I was like, this is super exciting. It's different than everything that I've ever been told to get
into a corporation, work your way up, and you'll be set for life.
Well, I was a risky kid. I took a lot of risks. I have a bunch of concussions. That's not relevant. In 8 months after that, so I worked for that company for a year and some change. So after that, they let me go. So I was unemployed for a while, and it took a long time for me to get another job. So I made sure to use all of the metrics that I was able to build up within the first job to write my resume to get my second job. So within a certain amount of time, I was able to gain X amount of followers on our Twitter account. Or I wrote a blog that got 10,000 views. I use those metrics. And you know what? If you're writing a resume today, if you can come up with any metrics, write that on your resume. You know, forget the keywords, forget like everything you know about writing a resume. When you put actual results of the things that you did and owned, companies are like, wow, gotta hire her or him. So I actually went to a recruiter, and because I was having a hard time finding a job on my own. So this recruiter hooked me up with this job, and this job was in the tech field, which I loved, and it was workplace management technology. So, I mean, it's not really relevant today. I wonder what they're doing today, but so let me tell you something about red flags. I had so many red flags when interviewing with this manager. I won't get into it, but I just got not the right vibe from her. But then when I saw her a second time, she was completely different, like way more personable. And maybe because the founder was with her that time, I should have seen that as a red flag. Like her personality went from like this to like this so quickly because of who was around her. Well, the job was an assistant to the marketing manager. So she was the marketing manager. And so there were two of us. This company specifically paid me $50,000, and they also paid for all of my medical insurance, 100%. So I was like, dang, that is like a lot of money, a huge jump from 30 to 50. It just happened overnight. I was like so amazed. And that was my recruiter negotiating my contract for me. So I didn't actually negotiate that contract. She read my resume and was like, I think I can get you the highest amount that this position is going to offer. So I trusted her and she came through. Unfortunately, that was not the job for me. Well, it was the job for me. It was not the manager for me. So I spent 3 months there, just under 3 months. Let me tell you, I think everybody has had that one job where you go to work and you have anxiety the entire time. And when you leave work, you have instant relief. And then when you climb into bed, you start to feel that anxiety again. Because once you go to sleep, the next thing is waking up and going to work again. That was this job for me. It was not what I expected. And it was all the manager. She was just so micromanaging. She didn't allow me to really do what my first manager was able to do. So my first manager really empowered me to be the worker that I wanted to be, and this one wanted me to be the worker that she wanted to be. So that's the difference, and I don't know, I think we get to choose who we work for, and I should have done a better job deciding whether or not I wanted to work for this person. But I really needed a job at the time, and this job was going to pay me $20,000 more than the job before. So it was like a no-brainer. I didn't think about it. Well, I left that job, and it was a purely emotional decision. I did not have a job lined up. It was just I had it to the end, and it was it. I was done. I made so many great friends at that company, and I'm still friends with them today. It was just the worst experience, but I feel like I needed to have had that experience, and now I feel like I'm a little better for it. The next position was back in Connecticut because since I didn't have a job in New York City, I couldn't afford to live there anymore. So went back to Connecticut, moved into my parents' house after not having been there for 2 years, and it was sucky, but it's what I financially needed at the time. I was not able to pay off any of my loans while I was in New York City. Whatever. Thankfully, I'm here today, debt-free, and past that part of my life. So this is about 2 years after graduating college. And At this point, I was like, I need an emotional break. I was just like, bleh. This next position was also, you guessed it, a tech startup. And I did not think that I would find one in Hartford, Connecticut, because if you work in Hartford, Connecticut, you probably work either for the government, Pratt & Whitney, Aetna, or some other insurance company. You know, tech startups are not common, but I found one. When I went into interviewing this time around, I was like, okay, I need to choose my manager. I really need to actually vet the manager that I'm going to report to, because I cannot let what happened on the last job happen to me going forward. So I really wanted to just be a little smarter about my decisions. I also decided after that last position that marketing is not for me. I did not like doing it. It just wasn't for me, marketing. And so I started to think back about my professors that told me that I would be really good in sales, but still, I was like,
Megan, you don't want to get in sales. That's a lot of work. So much rejection.
not for you. So I was like, okay, maybe I can dabble into sales a little bit and something else. So the job that I found was a sales and client success coordinator. I was like, all right, like it's more of an administrative role. I can dabble into sales, see if I want to do it, dabble into maybe client success, which is like account management, and see if I wanted to do that. Let me tell you, when I interviewed for this job after sucking so badly at my last job, I went into it as a whole new person, way more confident in myself and way more stern about like the things that I wanted. The one thing that I should have been really adamant about and stern with is negotiating my salary, which I did not do. Let me tell you what I did. Okay, I interviewed once, and then they wanted me to come back again and interview with some other managers, and I did. And then they wanted me to come back again to have lunch with a few of the team members, and I did, and I was myself. Through all of that time, I did not ask about salary. I didn't bring it up. And people are like, oh, you don't want to bring up salary in the first go, or you don't want to bring up salary too early. There's a balance that nobody knows. It depends on the person and the company. Like, I've heard stories about people bringing up salary and then people just being like, nope, not going to interview this person. And then some people interviewing, wanting to know the salary, and the manager actually thinks that's assertive and that person has confidence enough to ask about salary on the first go. Really, it's about the balance of the manager and you, and if you're a good cultural fit. That's not something that I knew when I started all of this outside of college. I was really in the mindset of like, get a job, so I didn't think about these things. So they offered me the position, gave me a call, and my biggest mistake when I got that call was this. He was like, hey, Megan, we would love for you to join this company. We think you're a good fit. So the salary is $42,000. And I said, is that negotiable? You don't want to say that. Every salary is negotiable. And if they don't negotiate, then they're just playing way too hardball. Every employer thinks about negotiation, and they'll always lowball you, at least a little bit. They're not going to go in and be like, hey, let me give this person the highest salary we can give them. No, they don't do that. So never, ever, ever say, is that negotiable? That's my tip for you. So he was like, no, obviously, but if you do a good job, we'll reassess your salary within 3 months. I was like, oh, that's fair. What else? This ended up being the best job I ever had. I loved my coworkers, I loved my job, and I loved the freedom that my managers gave me to be my true self and work as hard as I can for the company. And when I have that freedom, when I have that ability and that encouragement from upper management, I work harder and I work longer hours, and I work with so much more intention for the company because I believe in the company when the company believes in me. So I signed a contract to get paid $42,000 a year, and that's an $8,000 cut from what I was making in New York City. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm going from New York City to Connecticut. I'm just, adjusting based on the area. Don't do that. Don't think that way. If you feel like you're worth $50,000, then ask for $50,000. If they are like, no, we can't give you 50, but here's the plan, and our goal is to get you to 50 on this date, I'm okay with that. That's fine. And if I've ever worked with you at this company that I'm talking about, please comment below and just tell me anything. I killed it at this job. I really killed it. I did so many things for this company. I wore so many hats. And at the end of it, I was like, I'm really valuable here. Like, I feel so empowered to be like awesome. So 3 months after that, I was like, I'm working too hard for $42,000. Let me just go into the president's office and ask him for a raise. I have never, ever asked for a raise before, and okay, I really hope he's watching because he'll just laugh. But what happened was the night before, I was like, I'm going to ask for a raise. I'm going to ask for a raise. Well, I was thinking it for at least a month. I'm going to ask for a raise. And then I looked on YouTube. I watched videos on how to ask for a raise. And they were like, if you're nervous, just be like 1, 2, 3, and go. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try that. Okay, so I was at work and I was like at my desk, right? And over there is where the president's office is. So I was like, 1, 2, 3. I booked it out of my chair and I just like marched into his office, didn't close the door behind me, walked up to him and I said, I'd like to negotiate my salary. And he just laughed. He just laughed and he was like, you want to close the door? I was like, yeah, I guess. So I closed the door and I was like, and like obviously I was acting like the way I'm acting right now. I was like, and he was like, all right, yeah, I think you deserve it. I had everything planned. I was like, this is why I should get a raise. This is what I do on a daily basis. This is it. But I walked in, he was like, close the door, and he was like, you deserve a raise. And I was like, cool. So he asked me how much I wanted to make, and I said $50,000. That's what I made in New York City. And he was like, okay, I'll talk with some others and see what we can do for you. After that, they put me on a $45,000 base salary and a possible $5,000 commission on top of that. So basically I was a coordinator of sales. So I would get a little piece of everybody's sales. In the first year of that salary, I did make $50,000. And then we just like kept on going. I worked there for years and it kept on adding more to my plate. And I got to a point where I was like tired. I was so overworked and I had too much on my plate that I was like, hey, can I make more money? And that was maybe a year later. And my boss at the time, which is different than the president that I spoke to the first time, because I reported to the president first within those 3 months, and then later on I reported to the director of sales. And he was like, we'll figure out something for you. And a few months later, I found out that my company was in the works of getting some funding. And they were like, oh, wait until we get funding. I was like, director? Like, what is with this? Are we trying to like get more money? And they were like, yeah, like this is how we're going to be able to pay you more is if we raise money. They weren't just doing it for me. They were doing it for a lot of reasons. Well, that process took a long time. Okay, so like 6 months later, I find out that our company was not only being invested in, we were being bought. We were being acquired by a big company. And this is a corporate company. And my entire career, I was like, I don't want to work for a corporation. I really, really don't. And we were bought by a corporation. Okay, so this is when it gets interesting. This is the company that I'm currently employed at. So I did a lot of Salesforce adminning when I was at the startup. so I had many hats, right? Let's say I had 8, and one of those hats was Salesforce. And they were like, oh, she has Salesforce experience. We need people on our Salesforce team. Let's just put her on the Salesforce team. Well, I don't know necessarily if that was my preferred method, because I liked that job, and I liked my manager, I liked my manager's manager, and I liked my teammates, but I was just not fulfilled. I'm like kind of bored. And it's not like I didn't have enough work to do. It's just Salesforce all day, looking at just data all day. That's just like boring. And I'm a big personality. I need to like show my personality. And it was all remote. My boss was not in the area, so I didn't have to go into work. Anyways, so this is my second time negotiating a salary and I did it better. So when we moved over from the small company to the big company obviously pays a little bit more. So when my boss was like, what did you make at? And I was like, listen, new boss, what I made at is not what I think I should be paid. I think I'm more valuable than what they paid me. This is what they paid me, but I would like to be paid this. So I said I wanted to be paid $60,000, and that was an extra $10,000 from what I was being paid before. And he was like, all right, well, we'll figure it out. I'm sure we can think of something. So they came back, and let me tell you, this is how every employer negotiates like this, okay? So they were like, okay, we're going to pay you $57,000 a year. When you get your Salesforce certification, we'll pay you $60,000 a year. And I was like, okay. And this Salesforce certification is no joke. It is tough, but I've already had 2 to 3 years experience with it. So I aced it on the first try, which is very uncommon. And they gave me $60,000 a month after they granted me $57,000. So I'm now at $60,000. All right, so this is the job I had for the first year of working for a big corporation. It is so different working for a corporation rather than a startup. And I love the scrappy startup vibe. I love it. I love it. So I always thought like, okay, I'll just move on to something else. But an opportunity came my way when the main salesperson decided to take up another sales position at the same company, and that left us without a salesperson. So they were looking for a really quick turnaround, someone who already knew the product, someone who already knew the system and everything. They really, really did not want to hire and train a new person in this little small product within this big corporation. So there were only a few people who would have qualified for this job, and I was one of them. And I went into this interviewing process kind of asking questions. I do feel like I'm a strong, independent woman, but I do need some training, and I will have a little bit of a time period where I don't know what I'm doing. And my now boss was like, everyone has their first manager. Everyone has their first sales position. This could be yours. And since they had kind of run out of people to hire for this position without hiring someone from the outside, I was really the only person left. I got the job while telling this new manager that I'm a little underqualified, but I will work hard. I also told them that I have a lot of questions about the future of the product that I'm selling, and being really assertive with what the goals are for me and what the goals are for this product within this big company. So he said he was really impressed that I even asked those questions. And so if I can give you any advice, is ask the real questions. Like questions that they should feel a little nervous answering. They like that. Okay? And if they don't like that and you do like that, then it's not the right fit for you. When they offered me the job, they were like, okay, how much do you want to make? And I was like, how much do I want to make? I make 60 now, but I know how much they pay salespeople at this company, and 60 is like nothing. So I'm like, okay, maybe 75, no, maybe 90. But then I was like, I think I should make 6 figures. I think I should make 100K. And I talked to Matt, and Matt was like, put down 100K. If you want to make 100K, just put it down. And I was like, I don't know. And so Matt made me go onto the porch, scream out into the world, and manifest that I wanted to make 100K. And I did. And it was exhilarating, but when I got back to my desk, I was like, oh, 100K, that's a lot. But to this day, Matt prides himself on being the one to push me to ask for it. So he does deserve the credit. He's awesome. I put in 100K. They were like, okay, no big deal. And I was like, cool. So they upped my base salary by $5,000. And if I hit 100% of my quota, I will make over $100,000. And so far, I have. Like, I've kind of been killing it. I'm good at sales, which I really should credit Dr. Green from Central Connecticut State University for telling me that I really should get into sales and I'll make a lot of money, because now I am in sales and I'm making the amount of money that he thought I could make based on my personality and my work ethic. Go with your strengths, guys. This is how I went from $18,200 a year to over $100,000 a year working for somebody else. So in conclusion, I think there are a few key factors here. If you want a higher salary, you have to ask for it. And that idea that you need to stay at one company and build your way up, it doesn't work anymore. And I even was talking to Matt's dad about it the other night, and he was like, that's a millennial way of thinking, that you can jump around. But honestly, people don't care that I've jumped around. My next employer will not care. What they care about is what you can do for them today. So I guess my main advice to you is, if the company that you work for will not pay you more money, then find another company that will pay you more money. You're loyal to a certain point, but your salary is all about you. It's not about them. So do what you gotta do and live your best life. Subscribe! And lastly, I will be keeping this job, and I did talk to my current boss about how I wanted to do this whole van life thing, and he's all about it. So I really lucked out. I want to hear your stories, how you negotiated salaries, because I don't think I'm an expert. I think it was a learning process for me. Tell me what your negotiation skills are down below, and I would love to hear how you negotiated your way up to a higher salary. If you found inspiration from this video, please give it a like. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see more financial and or van videos. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye!